Welcome to the All Convention Luncheon. This is quite a unique meeting at NAPE conferences every year. Here, NAPE tries to use this platform to inform her members and the general industry that there is life beyond oil and gas. So at All Convention Luncheon, we don't just talk oil and gas alone. We touch base on different subject matters that bothers on the economy of our country. Without much delay, we want to welcome Your Excellency one more time, the governor, governor of Ondo State, one more time. Your Excellency, the Honorable Minister, you are welcome. And by the way, our sponsor on this occasion is Amni International Petroleum Domain Company Limited. Can you please give them a round of applause, please? Thank you very much. All right, let me quickly welcome for his remarks the General Manager Exploration for Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited and our President of NAPE, Mr. John Bosco Uche, FNAPE, for his brief welcome. Please a round of applause for our President one more time.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the All Convention Luncheon. I would keep it quite brief. I know we are pressed for time. And let me stand on the already established protocol. I want to welcome you to the All Convention Luncheon ACL, which is one of our major highlights of our annual conference and exhibition. It has actually been one of our flagship events. And this year's theme, which is improving the ease of doing business in Nigeria, could not be more timely than now. We now today have the honor of having our distinguished keynote speaker, Dr. Olashupo Olusi. I want to say a big thank you for coming to be our keynote speaker today. I also want to say a big thank you to Dr. Juliet Ehiman, again, for being our special guest this afternoon. As we go into this luncheon, let's enjoy the hospitality and conversation that is going to go on this afternoon. And on this note, let me welcome you once again. And I will say relax, and also make sure you enjoy the lunch that comes with it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Without delay, we're talking ease of doing business. And without delay, we go over now to our keynote speaker, who is a trailblazing leader, a distinguished economist, and a seasoned development finance expert who is serving currently as the Visionary Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Bank of Industry, where he has delivered transformative outcomes for Nigeria's industrial economic landscape. Because of time, I could go on and on, but ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our distinguished keynote speaker, Dr. Olashupo Olusi.
Thank you, MC. Your Excellency, Governor Lockheed Aiyedatiwa, my Governor of Ondo State, the Honorable Minister of Petroleum, Senator Heineken Lopobiri, the Chairman of NNPC, Alhaji Musa Akida, the distinguished President of the National Association of Petroleum Explorationists, Mr. John Bosco Uche, the President-elect, my sister, Mrs. Olajumoke Ajayi, members of the Executive Council, fellows and members of the Association, captains of industry, other representatives of government ministries, departments and agencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to you all, and thanks for the invitation to speak today. It is both an honor and a privilege to stand before you at the 43rd Annual International Conference and exhibition of the National Association of Petroleum Explorationists. I wish to begin by conveying my deep appreciation to NAPE under the leadership of the President, Mr. John Bosco Uche, and the President-elect, Mrs. Jumoke Ajayi, for the invitation extended to me and to the Bank of Industry to participate in this important gathering. I must commend you for the quality of the event that you put together today. As you may know, this is one of several invitations that I've received to speak this year, which I have honored. And, I get these invitations from time to time. Sometimes they're very unrelated to even my my experience and my designation. Like when I received an invitation to speak recently about youth and substance abuse, pathways forward for Nigeria. And in my mind, I was thinking, which kind of wahala is this now? But in more serious note, being here today feels like coming full circle. Even though my prospects of becoming a petroleum explorationist are slim, I have always admired the courage, skill, and innovation of those who drill beneath the earth to power our economy. In many ways, what we do at the Bank of Industry is quite similar. We also drill, but into human potential and enterprise capacity, unlocking the resources that drive industrial and national growth. This is why today's topic resonates deeply with me. It is personal, it is practical, and it's purposeful because it speaks to what matters most for our country's progress, making it easier for people to build, innovate, and prosper. When we talk about improving the ease of doing business, we're not just talking about policies, we're talking about the prosperity of people. The tailor in Aba, who wants steady power to run her sewing machine because she cannot afford diesel-powered generators. The farmer in Benue, who needs good roads, good seeds, and fair markets to thrive. The young tech founder in Lagos, who needs broadband and early-stage capital. And yes, of course, it's about the power company, who needs clarity on regulations, relief from multiple levies, and an environment where investment and innovation are rewarded optimally. In essence, the ease of doing business is the quality of your daily hustle. Therefore, everyone in all walks of life is susceptible to the business environment, one way or the other. Improving the ease of doing business is therefore not just an economic imperative, it is a nation-building agenda. It is how we unlock productivity, strengthen security, create jobs, and empower our youth. Above all, it is how we restore dignity to hardworking Nigerians who build, who create, and who keep faith in this country every single day. When global institutions like the World Bank talk about the ease of doing business, they refer to how easily entrepreneurs can start and operate enterprises. They measure factors such as the duration of registration of companies, the ease of access to credit, the ease of payment of taxes and regulatory burden, the contract enforcement and adherence to the rule of law, and the quality of infrastructure, and also the quality of skills of the labor workforce. To put things in context for our oil and gas sector, Nigeria may be Africa's leading oil producer, but the challenge is making the sector investor-friendly and commercially competitive. This issue is clearly expressed in terms of the cost of producing a barrel of crude oil, as an example. According to NNPC data, production costs can range from $25 to $48 per barrel, depending on terrain and exposure to risk. Some databases suggest that these costs range from $20 to $25 in other African producers like Angola, while in Saudi Arabia, the same barrel costs just $8 to $10 to produce. This difference in production costs is not the outcome of geology alone, but is largely the result of business environmental factors. Therefore, the ease of doing business is the difference between potential and performance, between the promise of a barrel of oil and the profit from it. In general, our oil and gas sector exemplifies the realities of multiple sectors of our economy. Our challenge, therefore, is to make the Nigerian barrel of oil, and in fact, any other product from our industrial ecosystem, more competitive by addressing the challenges that drive the costs of production. Perhaps for the oil and gas sector, some renewed interest in fossil fuels globally makes a strong case for urgent action. As you know, until recently, the demand for renewable and sustainable energy has been growing and has been clamored for internationally. But three famous words, drill, baby drill, by our American president, has rekindled some interest in crude oil, and this may well be an opportunity for Nigeria should we be able to improve our business environment. To understand where Nigeria stands and how we can do better, we need to examine the foundational elements that shape the business environment. These elements, from the stability of our economy and the clarity of government policies to the reliability of infrastructure, the effectiveness of our security apparatus, the availability of requisite skills, the fairness of taxation, the resilience of our climate policies, and the availability of finance collectively determine how conducive our nation is for enterprise and innovation. More importantly, the influence of each of these variables is usually sector dependent, and their impact usually varies across time. For example, the realities of government regulations in the hospitality industry may not be as burdensome as that of the pharmaceuticals industry. Skills may not be much of a problem in the fashion industry and in the mining industry, and so on. In a nutshell, one cannot really say an element of the business environment is more important than the other. So, speaking today from the prism of the oil and gas sector, many operators within this sector believe that the regulatory environment can be improved, even though the Petroleum Industry Act has made some positive changes. Time is money here. Every additional month spent waiting for permits, fiscal approvals, or license renewals increases project costs of capital and delays production. When multiple agencies request overlapping documentation or apply inconsistent interpretations of the regulation, it creates uncertainty that investors factor into their risk premiums, making Nigerian projects slower and more expensive to execute than their international peers. Second, infrastructure gaps directly raise production costs. Power, roads, pipeline, and ports determine how efficiently resources move and how competitively we produce. Every entrepreneur in Nigeria knows this story too well. A producer running generators day and night, or the exporter waiting for weeks at congested ports cannot compete with global production. A dearth of infrastructure is costing Nigeria about 3% of GDP growth annually, according to research done by the African Development Bank. Third, insecurity is a major challenge. Anywhere in the world without security, there cannot be investment or prosperity. In recent years, Nigeria has seen the the negative impact of crude oil theft and pipeline vandalisms on its daily production output. Insecurity in some producing areas disrupts supply chains, discourages exploration, raises logistics costs, and also cost of insurance. Fourth, financing conditions matter. For Nigerian operators, particularly indigenous firms that have acquired divested assets, they often borrow at double-digit rates, sometimes in foreign currency, and this cost of capital inflates production expenses and undermines global competitiveness. Fifth, skills availability can also be challenging within the sector. The recent human capital reviews by the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB, revealed that Nigeria has a strong engineering base. However, underinvestment in education and technical capacity has slowed the growth of specialized skills. Many indigenous oil and gas firms still face wide gaps in technical expertise and skilled manpower, particularly in advanced upstream and project roles. Generally, our education system remains misaligned with industry needs. We focus on degrees without focusing on skills for industry. Emerging technologies such as AI, automation, digital platforms, green technology, and so on are constantly shifting the skills demand, whereas curriculum and training in our universities and our technical schools, colleges often lag behind. Finally, the global and local macroeconomic conditions matter. When global growth slows and oil prices soften, as seen during the COVID-19 outbreak, high-cost producers like Nigeria are the first to feel the squeeze. The high inflationary environment will not augur well for production, planning, and overall enterprise development. The lack of access to exchange rates at competitive and predictable prices will often jeopardize positive outcomes for any enterprise development. So to summarize, in Nigeria, petroleum-based enterprises spend heavily on security for pipeline protection, on logistics through alternative evacuation by barges and trucks, on infrastructure, with companies having to build roads, hospitals, and other public utilities for the environment in which they operate. Lengthy contracting cycles, multiple levies, and high compliance costs push up these expenses. Indigenous operators often finance projects at double-digit interest rates, unlike in other countries with more favorable macroeconomic conditions. These realities explain why our barrels of oil are costlier. Saudi Arabia's barrels are cheaper because they come from large, already amortized onshore fields. They benefit from integrated infrastructure, low security overhead, and low-cost state financing. So how do we improve things? The first foundation is the macroeconomic environment. Its stability forms the bedrock of enterprise. Inflation, exchange rates, and interest rates are the economy's vital signs. When they swing unpredictably, businesses lose the ability to plan, invest, and grow. But recent reforms by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, including the removal of fuel subsidies and the unification of exchange rates, were difficult but necessary steps towards restoring stability. We see improvements in our tax administration, with tax revenues exceeding their budget targets. The result is renewed investor confidence. And as you can all see from Nigeria's recent Eurobond issuance, which was oversubscribed by about, I think, 5 times, attracting over 12 billion in orders for a $2.5 billion offer. That response is confidence in reality and confidence in reform. What is important now is to sustain that momentum through productivity-enhancing policies that will reverse importation, promote exports, and reduce long-term inflationary and exchange rate pressures. The recent announcement of a Nigeria First policy is a step in this right direction. Policy coherence and regulatory speed are equally critical. For the energy sector, predictable regulation is as valuable as geological data. A well-framed production sharing contract and a transparent host community framework will reduce the risk and ease the cost of doing business. Our industry regulators must continually review their processes to ensure that government policies support rather than hinder productivity in the sector. When agencies at the federal and state levels operate in unison rather than in competition, investors can plan across cycles and entrepreneurs can focus on production and not paperwork. Efforts by the government to streamline petroleum sector contracting also is a major step forward. But even the best macroeconomic and government policy frameworks cannot substitute for physical enablers. Stability and policy create the conditions, but infrastructure will deliver the competitiveness. Every kilometer of repaired pipeline, every modernized port, and every secured logistics corridor translates into a cheaper barrel of oil for Nigeria. For sustainable infrastructure development, we must continue to promote a private sector-driven approach to bridge our infrastructure gap. We've seen progress when companies like Dangote and the others take on the challenge and build critical infrastructure within their areas of operation. We see specialized agencies like InfraCredit doing an excellent job catalyzing private investment in power and renewable energy, amongst others. We need more of these specialized agencies, and we need more of these specialized interventions to sustain government efforts. We know that security is critical. A secure corridor lowers the risk premium that operators build into their pricing, and it ensures that production gains are sustainable. The recent clampdown on crude oil theft and vandalism has already shown results, with output rising towards the 2 million barrels per day target. We must thank our security forces for the strengthened security and tactical development or deployment initiative. Through this multi-agency collaboration involving NUPRC, the armed forces, and joint security operatives, the protection of our oil infrastructure has been enhanced through regular patrols, surveillance, and coordinated response. This is one of several government initiatives providing secure conditions within the petroleum sector. Modern investors no longer evaluate projects on profits alone. Environmental, social, and governance principles, or ESG as they like to call them, now shape capital flows. For Nigeria, aligning oil and gas operations with ESG standards is not optional. It is essential for long-term competitiveness. Reducing gas flaring, investing in cleaner refining technologies, and ensuring genuine community participation are not just ethical acts, they are economic strategies. They attract green finance, lower reputational risk, and prepare our petroleum industry for a future that prizes low carbon efficiency. What is good for the planet is ultimately good for business. But still, sustainability begins with people. The engineers who design safer systems, the operators who uphold standards, and the young innovators developing low carbon solutions. And this is why I want to turn my attention to skills and human capital. Both industry and government research confirm that shortages in technical and managerial skills remain a major constraint to competitive production. The NCDMB framework and its ongoing programs are helping to close some of these gaps. For the sector, investment in technical and managerial training must target cost-reducing capacity building in project management, procurement, cost control, and digital field operations. Overall, we must capitalize on our youth bulge to develop skills relevant to our industrial development. A fragmented approach to skills development cannot be optimal in the long run. Efforts must be concerted. Classrooms must be linked to the factory floor. Industrial literacy must go with academic literacy. It was the deliberate Skills for Industry program that lifted countries like South Korea after the war to become global industrial powerhouses today. Moreover, you do not build a business, you build people, and people will build a business. When we build skilled people, we build competitiveness. Madam President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I cannot overemphasize that finance is the heartbeat of enterprise. Without it, even the best reforms cannot breathe life into production. Access to finance is especially critical for sectors such as energy, where projects are capital intensive and returns take a few years to materialize. Globally, energy transition pressures are shrinking access to traditional hydrocarbon funding. Nigeria must therefore build blended finance models that combine public resources with development finance and also private capital. At the Bank of Industry, finance is our mandate, and over the past 2 years, we have deployed more than 1.2 trillion naira to businesses across 14 sectors, supporting industry capacity, innovation, and job creation. In energy and petrochemicals, our interventions are tangible, representing over 20% of our portfolio, including refinery projects and renewable energy. Generally speaking, we are using diverse instruments from debt to equity to provide patient capital. We have also mobilized nearly 2 billion euros in international funding from partners such as the AFDB, Afrixim, AFD, and the Islamic Development Bank, channeled towards manufacturers, exporters, digital enterprises, and equipment acquisition. We have created an impact fund, which is delivering equity investments where necessary. Through initiatives like GLOW and RAPID, we are democratizing access to credit, reaching rural entrepreneurs, women-led firms, and smaller enterprises that traditional banking overlooks. We have invested in over 15 innovation hubs across the country to sustain skills development for our youth. We are ensuring that digital and creative sector skills are optimized, given our comparative advantages in the digital economy, and through programs like the IDICE Investment in Digital and Creative Sector Program. Our support for the industrial ecosystem goes beyond financing, and it is to ensure that we improve the business environment. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, having discussed the obvious elements in our business environment and how to improve them, there is one critical element not often talked about, but I personally know is so critical to success for any entrepreneur operating in this environment. This is what I call the belief factor, which is the ultimate condition. If you don't believe in Nigeria, that no matter what happens to you, you will succeed here, it won't matter whether the business environment improves or not. This is why the winners who are usually those who take a long-term bet on Nigeria. They sit in, they dig in, they deliver on their mandate, and they get the results for it. It doesn't happen overnight, but it takes time. But the question is, you must dig in. In conclusion, I want to call on NAPE and its members to continue leading the advocacy for reform within the energy ecosystem, promoting transparency and sustainability, mentoring young professionals, and partnering with other institutions like BOI to drive inclusive growth. Let us move from symbolic reform to systemic transformation. Let us create a business environment that inspires confidence and signals possibility. Every barrel we extract from the ground, every refinery we build, and every innovation we support must bring Nigeria closer to energy security and industrial strength. The ease of doing business is the bridge between exploration and transformation, between potential and prosperity. As we look ahead, I am reminded of the words of Kofi Annan, who said, "Reform is not a sprint, but a relay. Every generation must carry the baton forward." Thank you, and may God bless you all.
Mr. President, if you can come present this plaque, speaker's plaque, real quick to the MD of BOI. Thank you so much, Dr. Olashupo Olusi. Many thanks for sharing with us, and many thanks to His Excellency for being with us at this ceremony. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Please, one more time, if your hands are not too busy, let's give Dr. Olashupo Olusi an applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. He has to leave immediately because he has a flight to catch. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you for the patience in waiting. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Without delay, let's move over to our next speaker. So we're talking ease of doing business. Our next speaker will be giving it to us from a perspective of digital technology innovation and transformation. Now, many a times you hear Ask Google, you may not know who and who played a significant role in helping West Africans, in particular on this occasion, gain access and helping Nigerian businesses grow rapidly on the internet, because as you know, Internet is a big lifeline in today's in the fast-paced moving world. So she's synonymous with digital transformation in Africa. She's a business leader, technology executive, and social entrepreneur who has spent over 25 years at the forefront of innovation and reshaping the way Africa engages with technology. You could learn a bit more about her in the brochure that you have, but please welcome, currently she is the founder and chief executive officer of Beyond Limits Global, former director at Google West Africa. Please welcome Dr. Juliet Ehimwan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Permit me to stand on existing protocol. It's great to be here talking about the all-important subject of ease of doing business, and in particular, putting the technology layer on that, because that is a game changer. If we move to the next slide. So when we talk about ease of doing business, first and foremost, what are we talking about? We're talking about speed. We're talking about reliability. We're talking about easy access. We're talking about simplicity. We're talking about lowered costs, increased affordability. And there are 3 dimensions that I would like to talk about where we're seeing technology increasingly playing a role in facilitating ease of doing business. The first is increased accessibility, which is really around, breaking down barriers, facilitating access to markets, access to customers, making it possible for businesses of any scale, large or small, to be able to access critical information. If you think about ERP systems, for example, where you have a single source of truth, and you can, at the click of a button, you can get a really good sense of how the different parts of your business, how they're doing. The second dimension is increased efficiency. We know that organizations are looking to increase profitability either by increasing your revenue and or reducing costs. What we're seeing today is that automation, smart workflows, and real-time analytics are helping organizations move faster and smarter, and really helping to boost productivity and drive operational efficiency. The third dimension is risk management, which is really focusing on the dimension of proactive risk management. So not just flagging issues, but being able to preempt when things are going to go wrong, detecting those. And with tools like IoT sensors, that's the Internet of Things, AI-driven monitoring, and other digital compliance systems, we're able to do a better job of really detecting issues before they actually happen. If we move to the next slide, please. So if we look at the last 2 decades, we'll see that the role of technology in business has been changing. From a back office support function, technology is now a frontline catalyst and driver of business growth, resilience, and innovation. And I dare say that today every business is a digital business because the lines have blurred. We now see technology platforms being used for every aspect of a business life, from people management, human resources, customer engagement, production, exploration, planning, strategic planning, decision making, forecasting, and so on and so forth. And so more and more, we're seeing that technology is really woven into a business's DNA. And it needs to be so for differentiation and to just really continue to be at the top of our game and experience sustained advantage. And so we've moved from, for example, desk-based siloed systems to cloud systems where we have, mobile-first applications and experiences and a lot of collaboration. In the oil and gas industry, for example, where we used to have equipment inspections physically, right, and maintenance tracking. Today, with remote monitoring systems, we're able to do these remotely, thereby, saving time, but also reducing the risk of human error or even accidents. If we go to the next slide, please. So increasingly, technology is a value creator and value driver. I find this slide very, very interesting and quite revealing, because if you look at in the last 20 years, if we just go with the numbers and look at the market capitalization of the top 10 companies in the world. So on the left of the slide, I have the top 10 most valuable companies in the world in 2005. You see that there's an oil and gas company on there, right? Now, fast forward to 2025. This is the list. There's only one company from 2005 that has remained on that list, and that is a technology company, Microsoft. We don't see an oil and gas company on there. But what's also interesting is that, sorry? Oh, my apologies. Yes, Aramco. So we still have one, but the scene has changed, right? And then we have 9 out of these companies are technology companies. One of them, NVIDIA, was not even a player until about 3 years ago with the launch of generative AI, where because of the fact that they produce AI semiconductor chips, their valuation, the demand for those chips has really gone up because of the boom around generative AI. And today they are over $2 trillion in valuation. And all of these organizations are over $1 trillion in valuation. That's just showing, how technology is increasingly woven into business success and value creation. If we move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So there are a number of areas where we're seeing technology really make a difference. And I wanted to just call out 5 important ones. This is not an exhaustive list. So at the engine, at the center, we're really talking about technology being used to fuel innovation in various forms. So first of all, if you just click. First of all, is around automation and process optimization. From robotic process automation to intelligent workflows, technology is increasingly helping organizations eliminate manual tasks, reduce errors, and speed up operations. More and more, it's about doing more with less and greater precision. And then the next is efficiency and productivity. I already touched on this, that with digital tools that we're able to streamline operations, improve resource allocation, and empower our teams to work smarter. Whether it's faster approvals, better inventory control, or seamless collaboration, technology is raising the bar. The third would be data and analytics. We hear a lot about big data. We've heard that for a while now. And I'll go deep on the data situation on the next slide. But just to say that technology is turning data into a strategic asset. From dashboards to AI-driven insights, organizations can make smarter, faster decisions based on real-time information. And that's really the difference between reacting and anticipating, being proactive. Of course, in the e-government space around the world, increasingly we're seeing governments and regulators going digital, making it easier for businesses to, perform functions like, registration, filing taxes, and just really staying compliant. And the final bit I'll talk about is risk management and compliance. The fact that with real-time monitoring, predictive analytics, and automated reporting, it is possible to detect issues early, respond faster, and stay ahead of regulatory requirements. If we move to the next slide, I wanted to deep dive into the data situation because that's really important. The fact is, all the intelligence we talk about is as a result of being able to capture and mine data. And the rate at which we are creating data today is alarming. It might interest you to know that over 90% of the world's data was created in the last 2 years. So if you think about humanity's existence from the beginning of time to now, all the data in the world, 90% of that data was created in the last 2 years. To unpack this a little bit, if you consider the fact that today, about 376 billion emails are sent every single day. And when you think of the Internet of Things, the fact that not only do we have people connected to the internet, we now have devices connected to the internet, over 1 billion devices connected to the internet. Some of those are sensors, all generating information. So you have a lot of human-generated information, if you think about social media and all these platforms that help us to create content on the fly, but also machine-generated data from all these sensors, right? A lot of those present in this industry. Another important development is the fact that we have such sophisticated technology tools now that can deal with not just structured data, but unstructured data. In the past, if you needed to create some insights out of data, you would have to put the data in a certain format. But now it doesn't even matter. Unstructured data can be captured, understood, and analyzed. So me just speaking to a system, it can parse that voice string, understand what I'm talking about, and be able to provide intelligence around that. So that has just really opened up the possibilities. And organizations that leverage these insights can really make faster and more accurate decisions to achieve unprecedented growth. And so it's really a marriage between data and technology. And these are some of the technologies that are making the biggest difference today. What's interesting is that in the past, we used to see these technologies as futuristic, but actually, they are now increasingly becoming mainstream. Right? So if you take the digital twin technology, for example, very important in manufacturing, in the energy sector as well, where you create a virtual replica of your physical infrastructure so that you can do scenario planning and analysis. You can test things out and see the impact before you actually implement those in the real world, so that you minimize your risks and also your cost elements. Drone technology, increasingly we're seeing drones being used for remote monitoring. One of my colleagues uses drones from a remote location to carry out optical scans, on site in the field. So tasks that used to have to be performed, in person. Cloud computing has, really, really expanded and has really democratized access to world-class, sophisticated infrastructure, even for small, medium businesses. Robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. Now, because it's so important and because of a lot of the buzz we have today, I'm going to drill down a little bit into artificial intelligence and machine learning if we go to the next slide. So, AI has been with us for a while, but it has been growing in leaps and bounds. Initially, we had just, automation being, computers being able to perform human-like tasks without requiring human intervention. And then we went deeper into machine learning, where the system could recognize patterns and be able to provide some important information based on those patterns. For example, I can feed the system with, a lot of data from a lot of wells that have been dug in, over several decades. And based on that, it would be able to predict whether this is going to be a dry well or not. Those types of intelligent insights. And then we've gone even deeper into deep learning, where we're talking about neural networks that operate just like the human brain. And that has been, going to the next slide, the advent of generative AI. Because these generative AI systems really use what we call large language models. These are neural networks that are just designed like the brain. That is why you can talk to a system like GPT, and it would respond and give you an answer. Now, a huge difference from what we have had in the past with, for example, Google search. If I type something on Google search, the system goes to the internet to find the information, the answer, and gives it to me. With these generative AI systems, it's not actually giving you back what exists out there. It's creating the response from scratch. So it's like it's speaking its own language back to you, right? With the large language models. So, and you have a lot of them. A lot of us are familiar with ChatGPT by OpenAI. There's Microsoft Copilot, which is Microsoft's version of that. Google Gemini, X's Grok, and so on. They all perform very similar functions. They're all GPTs, just pre-trained transformers. And the power of these systems is so enormous across many disciplines. If we just think about contracting, right? You can just feed all the contracts you've ever done, right, in your organization into these systems, and they would be able to analyze, look at risk areas, how you can strengthen your contracts, and rather than having, to generate 10-page contracts or, 30-page contracts from scratch. These systems can generate those contracts in a matter of seconds, right? And then your lawyers just have to fine-tune them. So a lot of possibilities there. When you think about risk management, if we look at the oil and gas sector, there are many variables that impact our cost structures and our business performance, right? The geopolitical situation, macroeconomic challenges, local security concerns, the state of the global economy and global sustainability factors. Those are all things that impact our business. And these systems can just really help us to understand and make sense of all this data and be able to predict trends, the direction that things are going. That can help us with optimization, with strategic planning, and also predictive maintenance. We can tell, if our assets are getting to the end of their life cycle, and schedule maintenance or replacement accordingly. So these are some examples. And if we go to the next slide. And there are a number of thematic areas where when you take these systems and layer them on the various operations I talked about, we see value from predictions to automation to self-adjusting systems to moving from task-based activities to having these systems actually manage your entire end-to-end processes, helping with real-time decision-making, and also lowering the cost and the risk of adopting innovation. If we go to the next slide, please. So people talk a lot about the fact that, AI is likely to result in job losses. I love this quote by the CEO of NVIDIA. He says that AI will not take your job, but someone using AI will take your job. And I think that's very true. Because we can see the difference between someone who's using these platforms to enhance their productivity and their speed with people who are not. If you have to write your contracts from scratch or write a speech or an essay and, from scratch versus someone who uses these systems to get a head start, there's a difference in the productivity and efficiency. So this is a time where, there is no, in the past, some of us would say things like, I'm not a techie. Today, everybody needs a techie. Everybody needs to be a techie. Every leader needs to be a techie. It doesn't mean you have to go and write code. It just means you need to lean into these platforms and use them to maximize your own productivity because they're very easy to use as well, and there's so much power in them. And if your organization is not on the train, then you're missing something. And so, the last bit of this is to talk about digital transformation, because at the end of the day, that's the invitation to every organization to just really ensure that you're digitally transformed. In fact, digital transformation is no longer a nice to have, it's a must have. And today, we don't even talk just about digital transformation. We're talking about AI-enabled businesses. And so this is fast becoming, the bottom line, I would say. And when we talk about digital transformation, it's about integrating digital technologies into every aspect of an organization's DNA. It's not about just tech, right? Deploying a tech solution. It is weaving weaving digital into how we work as an organization. So it's about people, it's about process, and it's about culture. So if we go to the next slide. To round up, there are 5 things that I believe every organization should think about if they're embarking on digital transformation. The first is having a clear digital strategy. Sometimes we have an approach where we think this system sounds great. It's going to do a lot of awesome things. Let's deploy it in our organization. Without a very clear strategy that integrates into our business goals and objectives, we need to start thinking differently and think about what is our business strategy and how does this plug in. So the digital strategy and the business strategy should go hand in hand, right? And as part of that, look at, what are our metrics for success? What are our objectives? And then, technology offers a lot of room for efficiency gains. And so it's important as part of this to go through, process reviews within our organization, see where we can streamline processes, see where we can, audit our systems and remove the efficiencies, see where we can bridge gaps with technology. And then a disciplined approach to rollout, where it's not, from zero to hero all at once. We have legacy systems that we need to phase out over time. We have to keep the business running while also, automating certain parts. So we need a phased approach that really captures and solves for this. Security and compliance. If you're thinking digital today, you have to think about cybersecurity, because there are risks, and those risks are also becoming increasingly sophisticated. And finally is leadership and culture. I said it's about people and process. The leadership buy-in and signaling is really important so that these initiatives are given the right resourcing, the right level of focus, and they are sustained. And so in summary, I think I have stressed this enough, the fact that technology is not just supporting business anymore. It is redefining how we do business. And the question to ask is, how can technology enable greater value creation for your business? And for the oil and gas sector, the energy sector, even more so, because these are highly sophisticated operations running in these sectors. And technology offers a lot and is a game changer. And it's really, it's a must-have, and the table stakes increasingly so today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Juliet Ihimon, founder Beyond Limits Global and former director Google West Africa. The conversation is going to be a fireside chat now, and to help ask those questions, and of course, it's interactive. The moderator is going to cover questions from your distinguished selves in the audience. We'll get the microphone around and you make your interventions. Our very own certified petroleum geologist and distinguished energy executive. She's moderating, the CEO, MD and CEO of Pro Ally. Let's welcome Tumbosun Afolayan.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and a real pleasure to be here again. This is, I think it's about the 10th or 11th year for the All Convention Luncheon. So a big congratulations to NAPE for that. Before I start, I'd really like to recognize the All Convention Luncheon Committee. This is the only time I get to tell them to stand up on their feet. So stand up on your feet for recognition. It's ably led by Mr. Ajibola Oyebamiji, FNAPE, and the past presidents. Brilliant, thank you. So we're going to get into the conversation. So if you noticed, because our topic reads ease of doing business in Nigeria, but our keynote speaker had to take a dash. Now we're going to focus on a subsector, which is how we can use technology to actually enable businesses. So Dr. Juliet has spent the last 20 minutes walking us through practical insights into how we can use data. And it is on this premise that I'm going to be taking my questions for. The format here is to have a short conversation around what she has presented, and thereafter we'll throw it to the audience. Yeah, so I smiled here because I remember when everybody chanted Aramco, Aramco. Aramco is on the list, don't leave it out. So thank you for that excellent speech. I'm going to start from when you talked about digital transformation now leading us to AI-enabled businesses. I really do think that AI, we were a bit unprepared for it, and if we focus on the energy industry, AI is not particularly new to us. We have been using machine learning for neural network, for modeling, for conceptual development for a long time. But I guess we didn't accelerate the technology from a cross-sectoral perspective. When you think about having a clear digital strategy for an energy organization, beyond leadership buying, beyond the organization being familiar with tech tools, what would you say are most critical steps for them to commence with?
Thank you very much. So you're absolutely right, and I mentioned that as well, that AI is not new. But because of the launch of generative AI, the use cases have become a lot more in your face. And so, because a lot of these we have this functionality in the back end, right? Whenever you use, Google search or digital advertising or a number of systems, they're powered by AI and machine learning. But because with generative AI, you have this front-end interaction. That's what's really created the momentum and the hype that we have today. Now, in terms of embarking on digital transformation within the oil and gas sector. So yes, the oil and gas sector is a sector that has, right from time has been highly mechanized, and there's been a huge use of technology. There are a few things, and just really going back to some of the steps that I mentioned, but going a little bit deeper. I think it's really important to have a roadmap which speaks to clear business strategy to say, where at the end of the day, where do we want to get to as an organization, right? And this is across the various lines of business. And what is the path to getting there? What does success looks like? What are the KPIs and the metrics that we're going to use to measure success so that we know that we're making progress? And then in terms of our, working out the planning, to just really look at how do we sequence things, right? This is, again, an industry where you have a lot of legacy systems, right? How do you ensure that in phasing those out, we don't lose, airtime, right? How do we make sure that we're also solving for safety and security? How do we make sure that as part of that process, we're making sure that we do important system audits, looking at our workflows, doing proper detailed requirements gathering? Because one of the things that I've seen is sometimes when you have huge digital transformation initiatives in organizations, you find a situation where you have different adoption levels. Some departments may lean in very quickly, but sometimes you have a situation where maybe the requirements gathering process was not robust enough, and then you have a function where, yes, there's this new system, but it's not doing everything I need it to do. So you have parallel processes as well. So it's really important that the due diligence is done properly right off the bat. Detailed requirements gathering, workflows to just really map out the path that would lead to success. and thinking about a cybersecurity strategy as part of that, because as we know globally now, there have been a lot of very prominent cyber attacks, and they're real. They're getting more as the tools become more sophisticated, the cyber attacks also become sophisticated. So these are things that we need to solve for as well.
Please, a round of applause for her. Thank you very much for that. So I want to talk about technology being an enabler, and you mentioned increased accessibility, efficiency, and risk management. So we operate in a sector where safety, prior to now, from a place of risk, we then evolved into safety and having safety as a culture. Where do you see us with digital transformation? In what way would it become a part of our DNA in the energy sector, that it would not be digital strategy, but it would become like, a strong part of what we do? How do you think we can integrate that?
So when you talk about safety, that's a very important dimension when in the entire digital transformation picture. And a lot of the possibilities today around remote monitoring, around automation, really help to eliminate some of the tasks that are more error prone, where you have risks of accidents, where you can have potential downtime because of one failure or the other, and so on. So these need to be really front and center. And in terms of making this, part of the DNA of the organization, that's why we talk about digital transformation being about people, tech, process, and technology. The culture is so important, because how we do things. There's a digital mindset, right? If we are an organization that thinks about data, what is the data telling us, right? That's the sort of culture that you need, where you are leaning into data, you're leaning into the insights to help decision making. So it's, and that's why the leadership buying is important, because all these elements need to come together.
Okay, I have two questions in one, and if you do have questions after this, you can please signify, and then we'll take it. My first question is around I do not mean any disrespect, but we have an aging workforce in the energy industry. And a lot of time, technology is, we have to, from a place of adoption, starts with awareness, and then grows into skill, expertise, and then mastery. We have a workforce that is aging. Yes, technology is going to be a part of our life in and out of work, but how do we begin from a place of awareness to grow a skill set to a demography of people who are matured? So that's my first question. I'll take the second one very quickly. So I've always wondered, 2019 was the last time the World Bank released the ease of doing business. Yeah, and then they started something called the B business, which shows how easy beyond business in Nigeria. Technology was not listed as a criteria. I'm just keen, from what you do at Beyond Limits, do you consider this an oversight, or do you think that there is an assumption that technology is going to be a part of all of our lives and it doesn't need a separate pillar to be identified? So the first one around the aging workforce, and then around the World Bank Index.
Yes. So it's a great question about the aging workforce. And actually, just in general, I was mentioning that sometimes there's either a resistance or it's just some reservation about technology. I'm not a techie person, right? There's a perception that it's difficult, etc. The reality is that these tools now are there's a layer of extraction that just makes them so easy to use. And maybe that's a role that NAPE can provide as value addition to its members, and organizations as well can lean into this, to just have sessions where, people are able to unpack these platforms and the possibilities. Because the reality is the train has left the station. It's not even an option anymore. I often say that digital literacy today is what basic literacy was in the world, decades ago. It's now the level playing field, and you don't have to code. You don't have to, yes, you have enterprise systems. That's not what we're telling people to get into. You still need the IT techies to manage those. But in terms of just being a digital first organization, in terms of, having your own personal smart assistant with digital tools, those are actually a lot easier and are accessible. So that's the response to the first question. So I'll encourage everyone to lean into this, and maybe that's a space that NAPE can support in. The second part was around... Yes. Yeah, so technology is an enabler, right? And so it is quite possible that the focus was on, what does it look like when you have ease of doing business. So for example, how long does it take for you to register a system, register a company? Yes, for you to achieve that speed, you need automation, right? You need to be able to automate that process so that people go online, they're able to search for names and do that registration, right? So the focus may be on how long does it take, with the understanding that the underlying enabler is technology, or invoicing, smart invoicing, and a lot of other government functions and business-related functions. So my guess is that yes, it's there's the underlying assumption.
So we are open to take questions from the audience. If you do have a question, please signify, and then the mic will be brought to you. While we're waiting for questions from the audience, you also mentioned that energy business is a digital business. Oh, okay. I thought the clap was... okay, yes, please, let's have the mic.
Thank you. I enjoyed your presentation. I think the first thing I'd like to make is a comment. I like to, because when you talk about NAPE can support, NAPE can enable, whatever, first recommendation I'd like to make is for company representatives seated here this afternoon should take a presentation, show your management, have her or her staff invited to come and walk you through this process, the change process of becoming techie. You're not tech, you need to become tech for the future. And if we're going to optimize what we're learning in a week like this, with all the ideas and the background and information backing up those ideas, then we need to pick it up and run with it. That's number one. Number two, one thing that I observe as a potential impediment, or maybe not impediment, or a hurdle, or a challenge, in trying to have the implementation of technology impact the business improvement process is infrastructure. The infrastructure, as we all know it today, is weak in this country. You have loads and loads of interruptions while you're trying to engage interactively online and make something work. You just can't get your result. You want to improve the speed of the feedback from the system, you can't get the result in time. So, I'd like to ask, what is your idea of overcoming this hurdle? Because I know that even government needs to do the same as the businesses are doing, because we all work hand in hand. I mean, for example, you need to make some payments through the state government platform, and sometimes you can do it by yourself online. Sometimes you can go to the bank, and they tell you that they can't access the system for days sometimes, and that's a problem. So, you or somebody else might have an idea. How do we overcome this hurdle, or take this challenge on? Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're very right about infrastructure. Everything we're talking about rides on infrastructure, and we need reliable broadband infrastructure. The infrastructure landscape has been improving over time. If I remember back to when we had COVID-19 and we had the lockdowns and had to do things online, a lot of the systems, like the connections that we had, you always had people saying, "Oh, can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you hear?" The infrastructure was not as robust as it is today. Because now we have a lot of meetings happening virtually, and they're, for the most part, they're smooth. So the increased demand has driven more investment in infrastructure. Of course, we still have some ways to go. We're not there yet in terms of, widely available, reliable broadband access. And this is a challenge for many parties to solve. You have the operators. I know the Ministry of ICT is looking at this as well. As the demand continues to grow as well, I think there's a natural business case. But you're absolutely right that infrastructure is an important component for us to sustain a digital economy.
We have another question there.
Thank you very much, madam. My name is Wole Shebioba. I work for Petro Data. My question is about data domiciliation, right? A lot of these things, the data is stored outside Nigeria. That's a governance sovereign issue, right? I know there's some laws that says data should be domiciled in Nigeria for the sovereignty of the country. And I want to ask you, you've worked for Google. Does Google server, is it in Nigeria? I asked, there's this, what the president introduced now, the NEL fund. And I asked the MD, where is the server driving this? He said it's in AWS. I don't know where AWS is. And if somebody wants to cripple this country, they just lock those things out. So the conversation, right, you being an ambassador out there, is let's recite this thing in Nigeria. That if you have people like the madman of America, he can't get on us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So there are a number of dimensions to your question. So first and foremost, just even looking at the landscape and the architecture, the reason why, with the advent of cloud-based systems, data location over a period of time, it just became less significant for a number of reasons. Because, with cloud architecture, it doesn't matter where you are, you can access the data, right? And it doesn't even matter where the data resides, you can lock it from everywhere, anywhere. So your point about, it can just be frozen out. Even if it's residing here in Nigeria, someone in the US or somewhere else can lock out the data. It's all remote access. So that's one thing, the fact that the evolution of technology has just made, geography less of a prominent issue. Then the other dimension is businesses. And, when you look at businesses doing their own planning, right? Naturally, as a business, you would look at a number of factors in making decisions for where you situate a plant, where you decide to explore, right, for a well, and so on. The same thing, there are a number of conditions that organizations look at to decide where should I situate this data center. One could be infrastructure. The gentleman just talked about infrastructure, broadband infrastructure. There's power. So there are a number of conditions that organizations look at to decide where is the most cost-effective. Also, traffic, the amount of traffic that is going to be going to that data center. So these are some factors that organizations think about when they think about where should I locate my data center so that it is most optimized for my business operations, especially if I'm thinking globally. So that's another dimension. Now, of course, from a local perspective, organizations will be compliant with whatever regulation is in place. So if there is a stare towards, local content domiciliation, etc., then organizations will comply. But my first two responses are the reasons why you have this trend and this picture. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. My question is, I work in the university system, and there's a lot of adoption of technologies, AIs, and so on. I want to ask, from your own perspective, what ethical considerations or guidelines should be adopted when thinking about the use of AI? Sometimes you give students assignment, they just key into AI and bring it out for you. I mean, is it the correct thing to do? I mean, what is the best practice? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's a very important question in the conversations around ethics and responsibility. There are talks about responsible AI, because you're absolutely right. These systems are powerful, and we really need to think about the impact on humanity and on different facets of life, right? There have been talks around even regulating the AI. I think there are a number of things that are important, and the technology is moving faster than our ability right now to either regulate or answer some of these very important questions, right? So there have been conversations about things like digital signing, that whenever you have an AI-generated content, let there be a digital signature so that we know this is AI, right? Yeah. So that it's still useful, but at least, I'm not thinking you did this, from scratch by yourself. I know it's AI generated, things like that. There are conversations around, best practices, even in terms of how the models are trained, right? Making sure that there's inclusion, because, to some degree, you would question the level of African content that is being used to train these models. So there are a number of things that have to do with responsible AI, ethical AI. And I think our learning systems, just as everything is evolving, even how we learn has to evolve, where it's not just testing from memory, where students just regurgitate something from memory, which they can, just regurgitate from an AI system. It is about testing understanding. It's about intelligence, right? So we need to move more from that memory-based teaching and learning, right, to more experiential, practical understanding. So our learning has to evolve, yeah. We can't do cram and pour anymore.
Okay, there's another question.
Hi, thanks for your presentation, but I want to turn the table and talk about the ease of doing business in Nigeria. You were at the forefront of driving innovation and adoption in Africa and in Nigeria. From your experience as a business person, what were the challenges you saw or you faced? And what were the things that you wish were in place in terms of, you're doing business, or for someone who is starting a business or in business in Nigeria?
Thank you. So if I understand the question, you're saying in terms of ease of doing business, what are the challenges that I see?
Wish you had at the time.
Okay. So I think everybody would probably relate to some of the challenges. The operating environment, for example, is one. Infrastructure, availability of reliable infrastructure, from power to broadband, and all of that. Things like company registration, filing your taxes, transparency. Those elements are important as well. Skills development and capacity building. That's also critical. And I think in terms of what I would like to see, right, to enable, infrastructure is a big thing. A lot of businesses struggle to stay profitable because of having to provide backup infrastructure. I don't think it's news, the amount of costs that businesses incur, including and maybe even especially small, medium businesses, in providing backup power, right, to run their businesses. I mean, if we just fix that, that would be, it would make a lot of difference in just really reducing the operational costs. So I think infrastructure provision, and of course you can expand that to other types of infrastructure, even road infrastructure, if you're thinking about, agricultural businesses and logistics and all of that. So infrastructure is a big one. And then of course, the ease with which we can engage with government services and platforms, that's also a big one.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Juliet. Even as the chairman of this All Convention Luncheon, maybe mine is not going to be a question. I always make a demand of you each time you come to our platform. I remember and I want to thank you sincerely. In 2019, when I was president of this association, you came around when you were still with Google. And the demand I made that time, unfortunately, COVID did not allow us to complete the deal. And I recall I said during that meeting that NAPE is changing. Our students are now, technologically oriented. They are now into hackathon challenge, all kinds of things that we are doing, not just the theoretical, go and study the art and pour all of the theory, whereas the art is already on the table with technology. So really, to my professor friend, I think we need to change the curriculum of the university along this path. I remember we discussed it during the pre-conference workshop. So that's probably a lesson for the university system. But what I want to ask you, Dr. Juliet, is that you've always wanted to partner with NAPE, especially with respect to supporting our students in the area of technology, ICT, and all of the AIs that you mentioned. My question will be, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, would you be ready to partner with NAPE to support us, especially our students, young professionals who are in, working along this area? Some of them are into this hackathon challenge and all of this. Would you be willing to support and partner with us? That's just my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So there's a very simple answer to your question, and that is yes. And yes, because technology presents a level playing field and a game changer for our young people. We can't afford for our young people, professionals to not be as actively engaged in the digital economy, because that way we're shortchanging ourselves. There's a lot of talent in Nigeria. And we already see, if you look at the entrepreneurship space, we see young Nigerian startups using technology to solve problems. They're already building solutions with artificial intelligence and machine learning, right, to solve financial inclusion, health tech, and different dimensions. So we should be really an important part of the digital revolution that is taking place, and not only be a part of it. There's no reason why we can't be part of shaping it. So absolutely.
We'll take 2 more questions and then I'll ask the final questions.
Good afternoon. My name is Bemisola Afolabi. I work for AMNI. My question would be, for companies that are not necessarily the Microsofts, the Googles of the world, would you recommend that they build their own database infrastructure, or would you recommend that they outsource to like the Amazon Web Services or Oracle's?
So there's no one size fits all response. It depends on where the company is at and what the company is looking to achieve. You need to look at the parameters and the dynamics. Also the cost equation. Is it more cost effective, efficient, impactful, aligning with your goals for you to build something in-house, or do you tick all those boxes if you outsource? Bearing in mind that some of these systems have gone through cycles of experimentation and testing and development and all of that. They're very robust, right? Some of these are global platforms, and that global accessibility also offers you a number of things. Having said that, though, one of the things with AI, one of the dimensions we talk about is agentic AI, where you can actually build agents, right, with very easily, because you have these modules that are in many ways pre-configured, and you can adapt them for your organization. So agentic AI to support specific things within the organization. So it's really looking at what the organization is trying to achieve and what's the path to get there. Maybe there are some things you need to outsource. Maybe there are some things that you can actually bring in-house to develop and build that capacity and have the flexibility and that level of ownership as well.
Last question from the room. Okay, so I have two questions for you. The first one will be, what lessons from Google, because we want Renaissance, Seplat, First EMP, SLB to appear on the top 10 innovative companies. So what lessons from your experience at Google and beyond limits, of course, would you suggest or recommend to energy companies to become innovative on a continuous basis, but importantly, to even outdo themselves and appear as one of the top 10 industries in the world?
So everything starts with a very clear vision of where we want our organizations to go, how we see our organizations evolving, and a clear strategy around that. Some of the elements that are important in that strategy is the cultural context that we operate in. These organizations like Google that you mentioned are known for very innovative cultures where you're encouraged to ask questions, you're encouraged to, there's an understanding that, to some degree of experimentation is important. There's investment in, research, and there's a leaning towards data and insights. And underlying all of that is just rigorous use of technology. So ERP systems that are so integrated, right? If in your organization you still have a situation where the different functions are siloed and the data points, the systems are not talking to each other, then you're really, you're behind in many ways, because, ERP systems, for a while now have been really, really effective in creating a single source of truth where, I can tell what's happening in, the different departments with the click of a button. I can see how my business is doing, where the wastage is, where the cash cows are, at the click of a button. So at Google, for example, I can tell that maybe I'm the 105th employee within the organization, right? The HR system is that integrated into the ERP such that every hire is, the date of hire and everything is logged. So, each person, you can tell you are the 76th person that was hired in this organization. That level of, and also how we work with our vendors, contracting the invoices, just really making sure that technology is really integrated to create more efficiency. The last question I posed, my very last slide, where I said to think about how can technology be used to drive value within my organization. It's really that, and answering that question for your organization and the culture to support that.
All right, thank you. My final question will be, we've talked a lot about opportunities, but when you have opportunities, you also have risk. What will be the risk of a full-blown or maybe partial, or we just integrating into a digital business, and what landmines should organizations watch out for when they are integrating this digital approach to their strategy?
Yes, so in terms of the risks, I already talked about cybersecurity. We really need to make sure that we also have a cyber security strategy, and that we are making sure that our technology infrastructure is robust. So on a regular basis, we should be planning for vulnerability assessments, system audits, things that just really make sure that we can guarantee the robustness of our infrastructure. So that's a risk, but there's a straight and very clear mitigation around that. It's also important that whenever we're embarking on these projects, we don't, because we run the risk of them being seen as technology projects, the project team should come from across the business, not just techie people. You have the techie people, but you should have champions from across the business, because they will do a better job of speaking the language of the different functions, of being able to interpret what this technology solution can do for my function, right? So to make sure that that is, you have a cross-functional team championing the initiative. And then, of course, the third risk is just a realignment and rearrangement of roles. People talk about, the threat of these AI systems and jobs. But what we've seen over time, there's always been, automation at different levels over time. At a point, we didn't have cars. Now we can't even think of a world without cars. At a point, we didn't have phones. But life rearranges itself. So now maybe we're not trekking so far. We're going to the gym instead, to build ourselves up. So I think rather than, some jobs will be lost, but over time we'll realize that there's no need for that job to be done anyway by someone. Just to end on a practical example, one of the things I do now is, connect businesses across board. And I took a team of business leaders in government and private sector to LA and Atlanta earlier this year. We visited some tech companies and just saw, some of these technologies in action. One of those was Amazon. We went to the Amazon factory where we saw robotics in action, right? And of course, Amazon is a company that processes millions of orders every day, millions around the world, right, with accuracy. And in the warehouse, we could see all these robots flying around, like, the level of efficiency. But there were also people on the floor. It's just that the people could do other things. They didn't have to be lifting, heavy objects or some of the manual tasks like labeling and all of that. So it was just really a rearrangement of roles. But you still need people to provide the supervision and, provide some, a higher grade level of work.
Very much. If you have enjoyed this conversation, please a round of applause for Dr. Julius.
Just remain seated for a few more minutes. Let's listen to our sponsor. I'd like to invite now the Group Chief Operating Officer of Petroleum Development Company International. Let's welcome Mr. Olajide Farinri.
Good afternoon, distinguished delegates, the colleagues and also industry partners. I'm sure we all enjoyed the very insightful session led by our able, distinguished guest, Dr. Juliet. As a titanium sponsor at this year's NAPE conference, AMNI International Petroleum Development Company is proud to continue the long-standing partnership we've had with NAPE in the mission to build capacity, drive dialogue, such as the one we've had today, and shape a stronger energy future. And all this is a testament to the special place that NAPE actually holds in our chairman's heart. AMNI International is an indigenous company with a proud legacy of excellence, and it fully aligns with NAPE's vision, which is to advance geoscience education, promote collaboration, and also strengthen Nigeria's position in the global energy landscape. Sponsorship such as this we've had today reaffirms our commitment to platforms that drive innovation, dialogue, and sustainable growth in the industry. The theme of today's luncheon, improving the ease of doing business in Nigeria, is very timely and also critical. A supportive business environment is a foundation upon which innovation, competitiveness, and growth are built. While commendable progress has been made through reforms and digital transformation, there's still room to deepen all these efforts, particularly in simplifying regulations and policies, strengthening infrastructure, such as the one Dr. Juliet ably talked about today, and also in improving access to finance, such as the one we learned from our able Dr. Olusi. For indigenous companies to play an even greater role in shaping Nigeria's energy future, all these key enablers need to be put in place. At Amni International, we believe that improving this ease of doing business requires not only good policies, but also strong partnerships. And for over 3 decades of Amni, our company has demonstrated what can be achieved through collaboration, integrity, and operational excellence. And the company has been contributing meaningfully to Nigeria's socio-economic development. Together, industry, government, and investors, we can all build an ecosystem where businesses not only survive, but thrive efficiently and sustainably. On behalf of our Chairman CEO, Chief Dr. Tunde J. Afolabi, MFR, and the entire Amni family, we want to thank NAPE for this opportunity. I want to thank you all for your continued collaboration and commitment to advancing Nigeria's oil and gas industry. Your presence here today underscores the collective dedication that continues to strengthen our industry and its future. Thank you very much, and please enjoy the rest of the luncheon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Farinri. Thank you. GCOO there of Amni International. Amni International Petroleum Development Company Limited, one of our titanium sponsors, and most importantly, our sponsor for the All Convention Luncheon. Please give them another round of applause. Mr. President of NAPE, Sir, Mr. John Bosco, Uche F. NAPE, come and present our plaques of appreciation to our speaker and our moderator. Can we give Dr. Juliet Ehimwan another round of applause? Please. Where's the bag? Her bag. Let me have that. Can I get the plaque for the moderator? Thank you for sharing insights with us. So because we're talking technology, the book of abstracts, don't worry, it's not on Google form, but it's on your badge. Just on your badge, you see a QR code there. You'll find it, you scan it. Please, thank you, Tumbosun Afolayan, for doing a fine job moderating. Please, a round of applause for her. Thank you, Tumbosun. That's what Tumbosun as well. Okay. PE, if you can please come and join them in a picture from where you would take your... Our members of the committee, I'm told you would like to also take a picture now. There's a family photo with the PE president, our speaker, and our moderator, and of course, members of the committee, after which PE will now take her vote of thanks to close the session. Remember that AGM is at 5:30 this evening in this hall. Again, punctuality is what we are advocating for the rest of the conference week. We missed it by a margin this morning. No fault of the organizing committee, no fault of all the keynotes, all the principal speakers. They were all here. Early as 8:30, they were all here. But we're waiting for us to have a quorum before going ahead. It took us quite a bit, lost a bit of time. Please, we did try to gain a bit of time with this particular event. So we started it not too late, but a little late, of course, because of the late start of the opening ceremony that affected this one. Please, a round of applause one more time for Amni. Amni, thank you so much. Amni International Petroleum Development Company Limited, we thank you. Thank you so much. Our president-elect, give us a few more minutes. We'll just make the final remarks and we're done with ACL.
Thank you, Richmond. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for staying with us since morning till this very moment. Firstly, I want to thank our sponsors. Thank you for making this happen by sponsoring this event, and we believe that we'll see you next time to even sponsor bigger events at our conferences. To our speaker, thank you. When I called on her, it was a short notice, and she just said, no problem, she will make it. And she got here. She was with us for the opening ceremony. She started with us. I think she got here before we started the opening ceremony. So thank you very much for making yourself available all the time. This will be the third time we'll be inviting her for our event at NAPE, and she's always here. We appreciate you. And to our elders, our elder fellows, thank you very much, sirs, for always making yourself available at our conferences, technical meeting, anything we have to do. All fellows of NAPE, all active members of NAPE, students, everyone, we appreciate you. And this is just the beginning of the conference. And we hope to see you tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. Let's continue to come together, share knowledge, and network as much as we can. And let's get ready for the AGM this evening. Please, like Richmond said, please, I want to plead with us. When we had our pre-conference workshop, all our speakers were here before we came in. It wasn't really pleasant. We had to stay for over 1 hour before we started. This morning, our target was to start at 9 a.m. All our speakers, because the minister and the governor wanted to be here at 9 a.m., they had to lodge a signature here, and they were ready. They asked if it was 9 for 9. We said it was 9 for 9. Please, I want to plead with us. Tomorrow, let's be here early so that we can finish early. Thank you, everyone. God bless you.